76% of employees see the importance of mentorship. Of those with a mentor, 97% say they're valuable, yet only 37% of professionals have a mentor. Today, I've brought on my mentee, Ben, to share his story and experience with mentorship. Ben is an incredible talent I've seen grow from a part-time employee to a college graduate. He made the move to Colorado, where he became a top sales professional and eventually became a rock star leader out in Kansas City. We parted ways as co-workers a year ago and remain connected today. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today's conversation with Ben Sullivan. Thank you for joining me.
Great to see you again, brother.
Tell me a little bit about your childhood and ultimately how you grew up.
Grew up in Toledo, Ohio. My parents are still together, both still happy, healthy, amen for that. I have an older sister and two younger brothers. Okay. So our family dynamic was kind of, we kind of ruled ourselves to a certain extent. My parents were both instilled a lot of great values in us. And as far as, being home after school, the little things like that, it was, if my brothers get into some trouble, it's my fault because I'm the oldest boy. It's my job to keep things under control, and same with my sisters. So we had a lot of accountability, but also forward thinking values instilled in us from childhood, from kids. So growing up in Toledo, growing up with my family, I loved it. I really, obviously every family has challenges. There's definitely some times that were harder than others, but yeah, dude, no complaints. I had a great upbringing. And the city of Toledo, when you're in it, it kind of feels like you want to go anywhere else. No one likes Toledo. When you're growing up, it's kind of almost the cool thing to say, oh, I'm so excited to get out of here. Yeah. But after being away for some time, I'm really proud of being from Toledo. I love the city, and
hey, it's the home of Gene Kranz, right?
Exactly.
The flight director of Apollo 13, and they still don't have a statue, which kind of pisses me off.
Yeah, we were talking about we should make one.
We should. Yeah.
We should christen it. Yeah. But we do have the only high school, the high school that I went to, Central Catholic, is the only school in America that has a moon rock.
Ooh.
A piece of the moon is at the Central Catholic Fighting Irish.
And in my short, experience in Toledo, I'll tell you, obviously amazing museum, right, that I got to experience. And then there's a baseball team there. The field is beautiful.
Yeah, Toledo Mud Hens, baby.
Mud Hens.
Yeah, and actually now we have a hockey team, and we had it for some years. I don't know all the history. It used to be the Toledo Gold Diggers, then the Toledo Storm, and now we've got the Walleye. And they have a new arena downtown in the Huntington Center. It's an amazing facility, and the city really has gone all out on the hockey team. So our fish, our fight, people get real into it. So it's good, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about your schooling, your career, and any kind of milestones along the way.
So as I mentioned, I went to high school in Toledo, Central Catholic, go Fighting Irish. Then I went and got my undergraduate degrees at the University of Toledo. I got a degree in sales and management. And then I went on, did some internships through school, got hired out in Denver under a certain someone, and then attained my master's through the company that we were working for out in Denver. So, and my master's is in project management through Colorado Tech.
But you're a sales guy, man. That never made much sense to me.
Yeah, I like to diversify.
Okay,
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I just want to do something a little bit different. I always kind of liked strategy games as well, as my natural personal ability, I think, has always been geared towards sales. But I love solving problems. I love trying to strategize and figure stuff out. So I thought that project management was just going to kind of make me a little bit more well-rounded.
Love it.
Yeah.
And then obviously you've and we'll talk a little bit about this in the future, but you've since relocated back to Toledo.
Yes.
I know you're working on there's a podcast I've seen you on, Rich.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll tell you, I love seeing you on that podcast because you bring some young blood into that conversation and a totally different view. And I'll tell you what, they needed it.
Yeah.
So
it's been fun. And shout out to those boys. They welcomed me in with open arms. They'd been doing that podcast. It's about University of Toledo athletics. And these guys are diehards. They all love UT athletics, no matter what sport, doesn't matter. And I kind of joined for the football season primarily, and that's kind of when I started. And it was a lot of fun. They're great dudes. So yeah, it's been really fun. And check out the Midnight Blue and Gold Launchpad podcast if you guys are into college athletics. But yeah, it's been really fun.
I want to take you back to when we first met. Tell me about again, that day we met from your perspective.
We were working for a home exterior company, and I was an event demonstrator. So pretty much my whole role was setting appointments at home shows for windows, siding, roofing, that kind of thing. And I was, this Cleveland show was one of the biggest shows of the year. And I actually was in the Toledo market as an intern through college. And my boss at the time, shout out to Mackenzie, great boss, she brought me over. She was like, hey, do you want to come stay in Cleveland for the weekend? It was the first time that I had gone on like a work trip in my mind. So I thought it was the coolest thing in the world.
I remember.
So I go over to, and you could get $50 worth of food a day. I'm like, this is amazing, you know? So it was so cool. We go to the Cleveland show, and the national director is there. You were there. And it was the first time I met you, and I was just kind of doing my thing, right? Trying to set appointments, trying to, shake some hands, kiss some babies, nothing major. And you kind of just had observed me doing my thing, and you walked up, and the first thing you said to me, I'm pretty sure, was, dude, you're a rock star. And I remember that instantaneously, like, I believed it. I was like, hell yeah, I'm a rock star. Like, and it went straight to my head. I was like, okay, maybe I am good. Like, I thought I was good at that job, but I was like, okay, like, this is, some validation. And it was really cool. And I remember the Super Bowl that year, because it's right around this time of year. Yeah. The Super Bowl that year was the Eagles versus the Patriots. And you waltz in wearing a Tom Brady jersey on day one. And I'm a huge sports guy. So immediately I was like, hell yeah. Like, big dog's in town and he's wearing a Tom Brady jersey. It was cool. And it was like
the GOAT.
Yeah. And you just showed me like little different ways to execute my job, to do my job differently. And I would try them and it would work. So like instantaneously, in my mind, like you had credibility because you showed me something, I tried it and it worked. Okay. And I think from the first moment I talked to you, I felt like you believed in me. So I was like, all right, well, if he believes in me, I trust him. So let me just, listen to this guy. And that led us down a multi-year plan of that kind of being the theme.
Yeah. No, it's interesting. And I'll tell you from my view, I remember being in the Detmer jersey. The Eagles.
Is that what it was?
Well,
I think it was a 2-day.
Yeah,
no. Detmer one day, Tom the next day.
The next day, or I might have changed at halftime because I know the game was going on and the Patriots were looking pretty good, I believe. Or was that the year that the Eagles took it?
Yeah, but it was a shootout.
Wow.
It was a shootout.
Wow.
And remember, it was a 2-day event. I don't know if you remember this. This is another little nugget of this story that like made me connect some dots. And I'm like, okay, I think I like this guy. You took us to the Cavs game. Remember that? Yeah. You bought some like last minute Cavs tickets. I leave my phone at the show. So I get in the car, you're driving us there, and I'm like tapping my pockets. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have my phone. First day meeting you guys, it's a work trip, so I was a little nervous, like, just wanted to scroll a little bit to, get my mind off things. And we get in the car and you start playing some rap music. Yeah. And I remember immediately I was like, okay, this guy is really high up in this company. He's super professional, super like clean cut, and you were listening to the same music that I was listening to. Yeah. So it was just like one little extra nugget of like relatability where I was like, okay, I like this guy. Well, I'll tell you from my point of view, the thing I won't forget is, yes, I walked in and obviously told you that because I believed it. It wasn't, I don't tell that to everybody, but there is some power in that, right? Somebody believing in you and telling you you're going to be great. Yeah. It makes a huge difference, especially early in your career if you're new in role. But the thing I remember is you wanted to compete with me. Yeah, you're right. And one thing that's so great about, this trip and obviously being here in Cleveland where we first met, I'm going to go spend some time with my mentor, right? Luke Lepresto is somebody that I worked very closely with early in my career. And I could tell you the first day I met him, I wanted to compete with him, right? Because I saw myself in him and I thought, man, if this guy can do it, and he's all the way up there, I'm not that much different than him, right? Exactly. And I think we kind of had that same connection. And, I know I got way more sales than you, but you were great.
They ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand. I think
we were close.
We might be misremembering that a little bit. But I remember we had a great day. Like it was, and to me, it also, to your point, it meant something to me that you were so, in my mind, like, so far up the chain. I mean, I was an intern. Yeah. I felt like I was the lowest of the low. And you're right there next to me as an intern doing the same job as me. Yeah. All day for hours. For 8 hours. And you were right there in the trenches with me doing it the whole time. And I'm like, okay, well, if this guy is spending this time doing this and telling me how important it is, and Lord knows he probably has something else he could be doing right now. He could be anywhere else in the country. I should probably be taking this seriously, and I should be taking a lot of pride in it too. So literally from that first trip, I was like, okay, it's on now.
Well, I think that's the learning for leaders, right? Yeah. There's something about being willing to get in the trenches and roll your sleeves up and do the job you're asking others to do. Yeah, right?
What's that saying? It's they don't care about how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yep.
Like you got right there in the trenches with me. So I was like, okay, obviously these results are important to him. Yep. So I should care about my results.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think it really was natural. Like I said, I think I truly believed you on that first day when we met, when you said I was a rock star. And if I think, if you need anything, let me know. If you have questions, let me know. And as I kind of progressed, and I think I was doing well, in my role, I think you kind of kept tabs on me. And I believe then we did like a sales training. You got me into like a sales training through that same company.
Yeah.
And it was like a 3-day or 4-day sales training. And, it was your choice essentially. I had technically my role typically didn't attend those trainings, but you were like, hey, listen, I think this guy has a lot of potential. Can we bring him along? You made it happen. So I was like, okay, another, notch of this guy believes in me. So I think when you started to believe in me, I started to believe that I really was, as talented as you thought I was. I had the potential that you were recognizing. So I think I just, you stuck your hand out and I grabbed it and I just was not going to let go because I started to, trust and see the vision. I think that you kind of saw in me from the start.
I would agree. It happened really, really naturally. And one thing I'll tell you about that sales training though, when you think about that was a totally different department. And so I was lining you out to leave my organization, right? Because I felt like it was best for you.
Yeah.
And number one, I'll never forget, what was the guy's name that led the training? Dude, he was great.
Stephen Cologne.
Yeah, Stephen. Shout out to Stephen Cologne.
Shout out to Stephen.
But I'll never forget Stephen saying, man, he's the best of any of the professionals we have all over the country. He's the best we've ever sent through this training. And so number one, like obviously you didn't let me down, but I think there's something to be said. And I had people, again, we'll talk about it this weekend, but I had people that did the same thing for me. It was putting me in a position that was best for me, even if it meant that I lost, your results potentially, or and I think that is at the core of a great mentor type mentee relationship. When you have somebody leading you that's willing to put you in the best position, even if it has no benefit to them.
Yeah.
I think that leads to a lot of trust.
That's a great point.
I watched you grow from part-time event demonstrator to event manager, put you through the sales training, you graduate from college, you get the opportunity, I call you right as you graduate, you relocate out to Denver for a role for a lot less money than you would have been making in the sales department at our previous company.
Yeah.
And I just want to ask from your view, like what support did you need from me at that point? You're now in a different part of the country, you just graduated college, you're away from your family for the first time. What did you need from me during that time period?
Thinking back to that time period, I was ignorant. I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't realize how truthfully big of a move it was. I just, once again, I trusted you. And I remember when you offered me that role, I had a girlfriend of 4 years at the time. We dated all through college. I knew that was going to be a tough sell. She'd already agreed to a job in Toledo, in our hometown. So she was already going to be staying there. And I originally was going to stay with the company that we previously worked for. So I knew at that time, I was like, okay, Skyler's offered me an opportunity. Let me find a reason why I can't do it. So I texted you all these questions. Is this going to happen? Is this going to work? What's the deal with this, and this? And I remember your responses were all like, okay, well, that's not a problem. That's not a problem. That's not a problem. And I'm like, okay, I think I got to do this. I think this is, I had more faith in the person than all the other unknowns. I just kind of trusted you. And when I got out there, I had some family who lived in Denver, and amen for them. Otherwise, that first couple months would have been very difficult. Heck, the whole time I was there would have been more difficult.
But it wasn't family you really even knew.
No,
right?
That's actually a great story too. I showed up at their doorstep, and it was the first time they'd seen me since I was like a toddler. And they just trusted me. My dad called them and said, hey, Ben's moving out to Denver, by chance, can he, I think he called me an orphan. He was like, can he stay at your orphanage? And they took me in, and they're amazing. Shout out to Scott and Katie. They're the best. So then luckily I would come home from work, and my whole mission at that point was to, make it worth it. Yeah. I knew I was going to put my girl through, a lot of stuff. My goal was to be gone for a year, 2 years, get promoted as fast as humanly possible, and come home with a good title, a good career, essentially start my career and come back and be with her and my family. So when I got there, I was extremely motivated, and I think you remember that. I was crushing it.
You were killing it.
Yeah, and then there was some changes.
Yeah,
and that's really when I needed you.
Yeah,
is when that time period, and I think, if we want to jump ahead a little bit, that's when I needed that was the first tough love conversation that we had.
Yeah,
where I came in, was crushing it the first 3 months, got an apartment. Turns out probably couldn't afford that, and when the organization kind of changed a little bit, or our focus changed, what we were selling, I started struggling. Yep. And I remember walking, I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
Yeah.
I know where you're going.
I remember walking in and trying to talk to you about it. And I went about it the completely wrong way. I was like, you got to change this back. You obviously made this decision, Skyler. Why would you do this? You're costing me all this money. And I remember you looked at me dead across the table. And this is, like I said, I'll remember this forever.
Yeah.
You said, listen, you kind of need to calm down and just put your big boy pants on. Like, you can do it.
Yeah.
So do it. Is it possible to sell this new product? Yes. Have you done it? Maybe not as much as you'd like. Maybe you're not having the success you'd like, but you can do it. So go do it.
Yeah.
And it was like just a mental switch. I stopped feeling sorry for myself.
Yeah.
I wasn't, I was doing so well with the other stuff. Why do we have to change? I was just like, well, it's now changed.
Yep.
So let's attack it. And it's like, that was a switch for me. And
Yeah.
that was the big moment
That was
where, once again, I knew, I was like, okay, this guy's the truth.
Yep. I want to point that out because I've been part of a lot of mentor-mentee relationships where I'm not able to have that type of conversation, right?
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to find people that you can connect with on a little bit of a deeper level, because I could be hard on you. And
Yeah.
we'll talk about that in a bit, but it's
Yeah.
that honesty that, is at the core of any solid relationship.
Absolutely.
So obviously we talked a little bit about your relocations. You ended up relocating from Denver. You got promoted,
Yeah.
came out to Kansas City. Thinking about your relocations, and obviously it eventually led you back home, which we'll talk about, but
Yeah.
how do you feel about them now? Looking back on them, was it, again, you spent this time period away and then you go back home. Some people would say, well, why didn't you just stay home, right? But how do you feel and what did you take from that experience?
First, I would say though, people who would say, why didn't you just stay home? I would say that's a crazy thing to think.
Yeah.
I'm a different person because of my time on my own. I
Yeah.
had to grow up. I like to tell people, it was the little things. I came home from work and there was no dinner there.
Yeah.
If I wanted dinner, I had to make dinner. If there was sink or dishes in the sink, no one else is doing those. Like, everything is on you. If you got dirty laundry, guess what? You got to do laundry. It was a self-accountability period in my life. And going from Denver to Kansas City, it even heightened because then I had more responsibility. And I remember when, you were part of that hiring process, and I knew I'd set myself up for a shot at it. I knew I had a pretty good angle. But I remember when you called me and actually, officially extended me the offer, you said, listen, man, like, this is going to be a stretch for you. Like, so you're gonna have to grind, you're gonna have to work hard. So you kind of, once again, you were honest with me from the jump, like, this is gonna be difficult, but you can definitely do it. And so when I got to Kansas City, like, it was just a ton of responsibility. It was the first time that I had been leading a team of double-digit people, felt like I was solely responsible for their development, and I took it very seriously. I wanted my team to succeed. And it was different because I was also, like, on an island.
Yeah.
But it molded me. It helped me grow up. It shaped me to who I am now. So I wouldn't change any of it.
That time period, obviously you ended up making me very proud. You did very well. You go on to be, an award winner and recognized as one of the top ones. And you're right, like, it didn't come easy, right? It was tough. And there were some moments that a lot of leaders hit kind of early in leadership, in their time in leadership, that you definitely went through and experienced, and we had to get you through. And I think it was just beautiful seeing you come out on the other end and excel and find yourself, which ended up being kind of perfect timing for you going back home, right? I want to ask, like, I've always felt like I've needed to be tougher on people that, I invest in or spend time with or mentor. Did you feel like that was beneficial to you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think, and we just spoke about one of those examples when I pretty much came in and wanted to point the finger and say, who is the reason why I'm not succeeding? And you happen to be the person I trusted the most and felt like you could help me change it. But in the reality, the reality is what it was. Change your mindset, go out there and attack it.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the easy thing to tell me at that moment, but you told me what I needed to hear.
Right.
And you also did that when I was in Kansas City at that new role, when I was stressed. I felt like I was under a microscope. I'd never worked 60 hours a week consistently before, and I felt like I was just grinding I was running in quicksand is what it felt like. And I remember, telling you that I felt like, people were doubting, people maybe didn't trust me because I was young, whatever it was. And you said, just prove them wrong.
Yeah.
And it was that. So once again, I wanted you to hand me a pill to fix the whole scenario. I wanted you to hand me some tissues and say, oh, Ben, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Said,
I remember you were pissed at me after that call initially.
Yeah. Because once again, I was like, dude, I always want this guy can fix it. In my mind, that's what I'm thinking. I wanted the short term make me feel better.
Yeah.
you know, you gave me the answer I needed to hear, not the answer I wanted to hear. And looking back, Skyler, like that's another reason, like wouldn't change any of it for the world, because in that moment, and I don't know if you remember this, you shared with me a story that you had previously worked at a different company years before we'd even met. And there wasn't like, the infrastructure wasn't set up. Nothing was really set up for you to achieve what you were going to achieve. So like relatively soon into it, you were like, yeah, I'm not sure if this is gonna work. And you had always thought back to that of like, you know, what if you just stuck it out there? You end up taking a different opportunity, but like, you always wondered what would have changed if you just stayed there.
Well, I think what it was is very early in my career, I had a model to sell, and I was killing, and you know, getting all this recognition on my way to a promotion, and that model changed completely. And it went back to basically like, you got to go sell and knock on the door to sell, right? And I'd found another avenue that was on fire, and I could sell anything, right? Anyway. But I remember thinking like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to go get it the really hard way again. And I was so close to achieving my promotion to get into leadership. But there was a moment where I just had this vision of lacing up my boots. And it was like, I'm gonna lace up my boots and I'm gonna get back to work. And dude, it changed the shape of my whole career because I stuck with it. And it didn't take that long, but I had to go do the tough work for another 3, 4, 5 months. And then I earned that promotion, and I realized how important it is to stick it out through those changes and to evolve and adapt and be flexible, right? Because every company is going to change. It's just about how you approach those changes. And if you're not changing, that's not a company I want to work for. I want to work for a company that's wanting to grow and get better. And you know, that's why I've thrived where I'm at today. But,
So when I think back to that story, Skyler, going back to your question, I think it's amazing that in that moment, I could have felt so like defeated or, you know, overwhelmed is probably a better word. And fast forward 2 years in that role, and I felt like I was
one of the best,
super established. Everyone trusted my input. My team trusted me. It was such a fulfilling role. After I got through that phase of, it was like trying to build a road to eventually drive on it. But I couldn't see the vision of driving on it. All I was thinking of was like, dude, I can't build this road. And I eventually got it built, and then it was smooth sailing. It was amazing. It was super rewarding, no potholes, nothing. It was awesome.
But I'll tell you, like most leaders hit that point. Like even as I hire new leaders today that are stepping up for the first time, it's the 6-month mark. Like literally, it's like clockwork. When they hit 6 months, it's not new anymore. They don't have the same energy that maybe they once had. And it's this moment where they're questioning, is this what I want to do? Is this what I'm meant to do? And you get them over that hump and they hit that 1 year mark and they're different. It's a different, and I just think it's important to share that because I think there's a lot of people that are going to continue to go through that, right?
Absolutely.
And that's where the learning really occurs. Ben, obviously our relationship really changed over the last year, right? You know, I had just announced and made a decision that I was going to be moving back home and taking a different role and getting to be around my daughter for the first time in many years. And in that same time period, you made a decision that was the exact opposite of a decision that I had to make early in my career, which is to move back home, right? You chose, I want to go start a family. I want to, you know, I want to go back with my girl and eventually get engaged. And, you know, for somebody that was on a fast track, right, that's a tough decision to make. And I chose the opposite, right? And I'm, you know, I think no regrets in any choice I've made, right? It led me to this point and I'm back home. But I tell you, for you, like one of the things I was so proud of is that you knew you were sitting next to somebody that you looked up to that mentored you. And you were going against the decisions I'd made, right? That it allowed me to grow my career and be a provider in ways that I never even imagined were possible. And you chose the opposite. And I just want to tell you, like, I love that. It was something that I just like, man, like that, you followed your heart. You know, my heart took me a different way. Your heart took you back home. And so I want to ask you like about that decision and like the conversation we had and you know, I remember you were nervous. Like
dude, I was definitely nervous.
And tell me about that.
Well, I felt like you had invested a lot in me, right? And I knew where my heart was, to your point. It really was that simple. It wasn't that, you know, I thought about it, you know, really pondered it for months, you know, what should I do? Because I knew my stock was high. I knew I was in a great spot, in a great company to make some stuff happen. And like you said, provide for my future kids on a level that I wasn't expecting at that age. But I really felt that, my home was where my heart was. I wanted to move back, be with my family, be with my girl, who at that point we had then been dating for 8 years, 4 of which in college, 4 of which while I'm, dilly-dallying around the country building a career. And she had stuck with me through all that. So I really felt like, I wanted to move back home, but I'd also felt I had built the skills and built the confidence that even though it might not be, my career might not be for the next few years with that same company under you, I felt the skills that I had learned while under you would prepare me to succeed anywhere. So I felt like, it wasn't just with that company that, out in Kansas City. I felt like if it was possible for me to succeed in the same city as my family, be around my girl, and I felt the answer to that was yes, then why not send it, go home, trust yourself, go out on a limb again. You've already done it a couple times.
Yeah.
What's one more time? So it's been crazy. It's been really fun. I forgot how busy it is to be in the same city as all your family, and my grandparents and my girlfriend's family is awesome. So I like spending time with them, or my fiance's family. Sorry, honey.
Congrats, by the way.
Thank you.
That's
We're
awesome.
still working through that part where I call her girlfriend and she's fiance. But so it's been really fun to be back. But yeah, like I said, I forgot you have a lot of free time when you're in an apartment by yourself, halfway across the country. So it's been a crazy year. So coming up on a year next month. So
awesome.
Can't believe it.
That's crazy. Time flies.
And
that means I'm coming up on a year being back home myself. From your perspective, what made our relationship or our partnership so successful?
I think we kind of touched on it earlier, like what makes a successful mentorship. I think the trust. You showed me that I could trust you. Whether it be simple little tips and tricks on how to set appointments, or whether it be career moves when I would call you and ask you something and it might not benefit you, but you were telling me the truth. You were telling me something that would benefit me, or from your perspective, what I should do. So to me, you never gave me a reason not to trust you. And you always gave me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. So I really think that's what made it so successful. I knew if I had a problem, I knew if I had something at work where it was just a situation I wanted to run something by somebody, I knew who I was going to, because I knew what I was going to get every single time. I was going to get the answer I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear.
Absolutely.
And I really think that's what was the fuel for it. That's what kept it all going, because you know how it goes in your career. You have a lot of situations that pop up. There's a lot of moments where you're like, oh, okay, I wish I had another set of ears to help me figure this out. You're still that for me. But that was really, I think, what catapulted it and sustained it for so long.
How would you say our relationship has changed? Like, obviously we aren't working together for the first time in 8 years. How would you say our relationship's changed today?
Truthfully, I think part of that's my own fault. I'm notorious for, not calling people as much as I should. So it's actually one of my 2024 goals is to develop essentially like a calendar. Yeah. And I'm like going to call certain mentors, even friends that, I went to school with that I don't talk to as much. Family members like my aunt and uncle who live in Denver, just to make sure that I'm doing a better job of keeping tabs on my people and making sure my people know that I still, hey, I'm still here, just let me know. Because I'm if I don't see a friend for 2 years and we see each other, we have a conversation like we talked 2 days ago. Yeah. That's how my mind views like even our relationship. Like we don't have to talk every day for me to, or for you to still know that I care about you, and for me to know that you care about me. Yeah. So I think we've, it's kind of interesting because now, we're not working together. Yeah. So it does feel a little bit weird, but I know I can still call you. And I have called you a couple times over the last year and say, hey, listen, so this is what's going on. This is the update. Blah, 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 blah. I know you're still there. So it's changed just strictly off of not seeing each other as much.
Well, and at least from my view, we've still got group chats going. And I think it's become more of a friendship. There's always, an opportunity for you to call, and we do talk, obviously what's going on in your career and whatnot. But to me, we've gotten to become friends, which is just amazing. And, I think that was another aspect of our relationship is while we were working together, I really was intentional about, having a good rapport with you and having a good relationship, but I kept it separate, and I think that benefited us. I agree. While we were working together, it allowed me for there to still be lines and respect, and absolutely, I felt like that was a component of it that was important. We always had a good rapport, but it wasn't, we weren't hanging out, right? And I think that it was, I don't know. I go both ways on that, but I think it worked for us.
100% agree with you. I think in a weird way, and to your point, it wasn't like we were hanging out on the weekends, but you knew that I was there with no family.
Yeah.
So little things like you would just check in on me on a weekend sometimes.
Yeah.
Or like we went to a Chiefs game one time.
Yeah, go Chiefs, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah, go
Dude,
Chiefs. Yeah.
We're real fans, dude.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
And I'm a Browns fan, guys. I'm sorry, but yeah, go Chiefs. Yeah, like it was the little things. I felt like you almost like big brother type of relationship. Where to your point, it wasn't like we were your big brother's not your. That's my younger brothers.
Yeah,
we're not always pals.
Yeah,
I'm your big brother. I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear. I keep saying that. That's the theme. That's gonna be on the
it's great
YouTube sticker.
That's the key. So, let me ask you this: moving forward, what support do you need?
Like we mentioned, I'm engaged now, so I feel like I hear like the squeals in my future, you know, like a wailing baby, you know? So like I know that I'm, you know, going to continue to grow, and like that's another avenue where you can still, you know, you can still provide a ton of advice in that avenue, or from that aspect. So, I mean, career-wise, I know I can always call you. I know you'll always have my back. And even, once again, friendship-wise, I know if, you know, if I got some great idea that I think I need to do something with, I'm calling Skyler. Let's figure out if we can make something happen here. So yeah, I mean, brother, I'm just grateful, honestly. Like I don't want to request anything. I don't want to ask for anything in the future. I'm grateful for what we have, and you know, it's all love on my end, brother.
Well, one thing, and I just kind of want to end with this. I have somebody, or I lost somebody that I mentored over the last 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Somebody that I worked very closely with, mentored, different type of relationship, and you know, I lost them.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, the thing that I want to express is, anybody that's with me at this point, whether it's my friend, somebody I mentor, like, dude, I hope you know you can always call me. There's going to be a time or 2 times or 3 or whatever it may be throughout the course of your life. It could be 10 years from now, it could be 20 years from now, where you're going to go through something and you're going to need people. Yeah. And so the one thing I want to express is like, I hope that continues. And that's something that I'm really changing in my relationships, is putting that out at the forefront, because I don't want to ever be in a position where I get those types of calls again. And I know you're a different situation. You got a lot going for yourself. But I just want to express that. Like, that's the type of connection and relationship that I want to have.
Yeah. Well, listen, dude, every time I see Skyler Talbott pop up on my phone in a text, you know, on a text message.
It's usually a Young Thug trial update.
It makes, free my boy, free King Slime. It makes me smile, dude. It literally, I love getting texts from you. I love looking at my phone, and most time when I'm at work or I'm, you know, having dinner with Miranda or whatever it is, and I look down and there's missed calls, because my phone's never on a ringer. It's a bad habit. I look down and it says missed call from Skyler Talbott. I'm like, hell yeah. Like, let me give my boy a shout. So yeah, dude, I'll always, like I said, I know you've been in my corner and saw my potential that I now believe and see before I believed it or saw it. Yeah. And so I'll forever be grateful for you, brother. And
I'm excited, because this weekend, like I said, I get to sit and have this conversation with you, and then I get to go sit with somebody that was the person I was for you to me, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny, because all the things you're saying are the things that I'm teed up and prepared to talk about, in terms of somebody believing in me and seeing myself in somebody that I looked up to. And so it's neat, because that's where the learning is. Like, there's common threads in these conversations and in this type of relationship that I think people need to pull away, right, and take with them. So, Ben, I appreciate the time today, man.
Thanks for having me.
Always a pleasure.
Great to see you.
Like, I never thought that I'd be sitting in Cleveland with Ben Sullivan again, but this was amazing.
Believe me. I feel like let's go out and set some appointments.
Let's do it.
Let's go do something.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Conversations. We'll be back in the next couple of weeks with some more exciting guests. Thank you.